I want to say good evening to our listening audience and welcome to our third week of Breast Cancer Awareness. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we're just happy to be bringing you this show that talks about breast cancer here in the Bahamas. And so I want to say welcome to our listening audience here in the Bahamas and abroad. My name is Dr. Ebby Sherrod Jackson, and it's a pleasure once again to be here to bring this exciting program to you. Share your story. And it's about persons in our country who are dealing with different challenges and illnesses, and they're going to talk about their lives and what they are doing. So, this evening is going to be an exciting show. We have a very beautiful young lady who is coming in, and she has been involved in cancer advocacy, in particular breast cancer, for a very long time. She is going to tell a very exciting story this evening. So listen up. If you have friends and loved ones, please invite them to tune in to share your story, brought to you by Palmdale Vision Center. We are live on Facebook and we are live on YouTube. So you can just type in Palmdale Vision Center and you should be able to see the show live. As you know, we in the Bahamas have a high rate of breast cancer, and so many women and even some men have their stories to tell. Many women are here fighting the disease. Many have succumbed, and many are in the fight. And for those who are cancer free, we just say thank God because He has done it. And
Many have succumbed
I
and
want to
many are
say
in the
thank
fight.
you.
And for those who are
Thank you to the staff and my husband and my son for their tremendous help in trying to bring this show to you. This is the third week, and it's normally held once a month, every third Thursday. And without further ado, I am going to invite my very special guest into the studio this evening. Hi, good evening.
Good
How are you?
evening, Dr. Abby. I am well, thank you. It's wonderful to be here with you to participate in this interview.
This is the lovely, you can pronounce this name several ways. In Spanish is Duquesa,
Yes.
here, or Duquesa, some people would say, or Duquesa, the Bahamian way. But we want to say welcome to Duquesa.
Thank you.
She is a wonderful lady, and she has so much to share with us. So I'm going to say, Duquesa, please tell the listening audience, who is Duquesa?
Well, I love that question because it's usually a very loaded question for me. I have many hats that I wear. For a career, I'm a certified public speaker, a corporate trainer, published author, a self development mentor. Um, for my passion work, I work with women, helping them through difficult times, finding silver linings, and coming out to the other side of that. And one way that I do that is as president of the Jenny Dean Caring and Sharing Cancer Support Group. I believe that our experiences in life are not just meant for us, but meant to also inspire, motivate, and encourage other women or other people as they journey through life.
She definitely has a hat. She reminds me of myself in some ways, wearing many hats. Now, okay, so Cressa, please tell us, who is Jeannie Dean? Who is she?
Oh, Jenny Dean was my mom. I refer to her as a legend because I don't know anyone that my mother didn't know. In our family and in her community of friends, she was really known as the go to person. If you needed something from Russia, she could find it. If you needed something or some help from a doctor locally, she could get that to happen. She was a woman with a huge personality, with a mission to help. She served in various like service or organizations prior to starting her own support group. From she was young, I remember her participating in JCs and being involved in the community outreach for St. Agnes Church. And she was just a loving, giving person with a huge heart. for helping other people. That's the greatest memory that I have of my mom. She was always someone on a mission to give, to help, and to support other people.
Now, I met her several years ago, and at that point, I think she was president of the Cancer Society or actively involved in the Cancer
Yes,
Society.
she was actively involved in the Cancer Society. She was never president though, but she was really active. She
She was
organized
head
the
of the Stride for
Stride,
Life.
right? She was head of the Stride for Life walkathon fundraiser for the Cancer Society, a role that she took very seriously. She, I think, year after year expanded the walk in terms of not participation, but also in terms of entertainment and just being more exposed to the Susan G. Komen walk that her and the group attended so many times, coming back and bringing some of those ideas to engage and encourage other people to participate as well. And she loved that. She loved organizing that walk.
Yeah, that was my first encounter with her, and she and I became dear friends, and I supported her work that she was involved with in fundraising after that. Now,
Yes.
when was she diagnosed with breast cancer?
She was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2012. She was it 2012? I think it was 2012. No, it was actually 2002. It's been 17 years, 18 years. So that had to have been a little longer. I don't remember the exact year, but I know that prior to her death, it was like 17 years that she had been in the journey. She had conquered it. The first, she took one breast off, but the cancer came back later, but it came back in her lung area, not in the breast area. So she was well for many years before she went back in the fight with a different form of cancer.
Yeah, she started that organization, and it was for a lot of women in particular who were dealing with breast cancer, just to provide an avenue for them to have social
Yeah.
outreach and just to come together, share, and so on. And then she succumbed. When did she succumb again?
She passed away in October of, actually it was Heroes Day of October 2017. So we just celebrated her, well, not really celebrated, but honored her 4th year.
Okay. Now, why did you decide to take up the mantle after she passed?
Oh,
Or,
Dr.
and I think at that point you were still involved in it and doing things, because I remember
Well,
on several occasions you were around
yes,
working
I
in the
was
background.
around because my mom was super supportive of me, and I thought it was only fitting for me to support her in all of her ventures. So I was not an active committee member of the GD Caring and Sharing group when she first started it. I would help with events. I would help with planning. I mean, my family would help with food and serving and that sort of stuff. But when I started to work at CIBC First Caribbean and was champion for the CIBC First Caribbean Walk for the Cure here in the Bahamas, my mom was like, it was like she was organizing the walk. She was just behind me, encouraging me, giving me all of the advice because, of course, I'd never organized a walk before. And I remember her always being there no matter what, sharing her expertise. Even in sickness, she was always there for me. When she passed away, I didn't want the work that she'd already put in with the group to die along with her. And so I stepped in to have more of an active role in the group. We expanded the programs that the group offer. We
We're
started
going to
to
talk about that later. Just
Mhm.
yeah, we're going to get
Yeah,
into that.
so we just expanded after she passed away. But it's, cancer just touches so many people, so many avenues. And Dr. Abby, I watched the women in this support group. People talk early on that we were just a social organization, but the reality is, if you've travailed with cancer, you would know firsthand how it feels to readjust to life with one breast or with no breast. And
Mhm.
there's always this conscious thought that someone may be looking, someone may be judging when you are among regular people. There's always this concern lurking. And so my mom wanted to help these women reacclimate or to slowly transition into other social environments by first being surrounded by other cancer survivors, other like people, so that there would be no concern about who's looking at them. They could just relax, enjoy themselves, um, be at ease in that environment. And, the mental and emotional toll that a cancer patient carries through the journey is harder I would dare say harder than actually the physical healing. The body heals. The mind, though, and the emotions that come with dealing with cancer is a secondary type of illness that I don't think enough attention is paid to. And I think that is a big part of the reason she started with all of the social activities for the group. And you would see these women come alive. They would dance, they would laugh. It became one big family. And it was just so good to see them happy. It was encouraging to be able to see that cancer is not a death sentence. You could live, you could love, you could laugh, you could enjoy life. Yes, you will have hard moments, and that's why groups and support groups are so important, because you have people that can pull you through those difficult times. I've seen women go to other women's house and clean up, carry food that's been cooked, feed them, sit with them, talk with them. And so support groups are extremely important in the fight against cancer, and for the patient to have hope that they can get to the other side of the journey.
And that is very important, especially depending on the stage you're at in your fight. Some patients, I had a young lady on last week who talked about she went through treatment and it was a breeze, that kind of way. And to me that's amazing, because for me it was not a breeze. And when you have support around, people to help, people to just call, and if you need anything done and that sort of thing. Now, let's transition to you. So you took
Yes.
over, and I've seen you many times on the streets, begging and asking for support, doing things and just pushing and pushing. And so as you took over and as things began to grow and magnify and change, and then what happened concerning you?
Well, earlier this year, after cancer screening, it was discovered that I did have some precancer cells in my reproductive area. This just put me in a tailspin. I was frightened, as I was consulted about the impacts of finding those cells, just considering the fact that my mom had breast cancer, watching her go through the journey, knowing how the other women in the group have had to fight really to live life. It was some hard news to deal with. I knew that it was a possibility that at some point in my life, just based on genetics, that I would face a fight with cancer.
Was she BRCA positive?
No, she was
was not.
negative, and I'm also BRCA negative as
Okay.
well. So there was some concerns from my physicians about the hormones and cancer and breast cancer. And so we had to take radical action to deal with my circumstances. So we discovered that in May, and on July 23rd, after a few weeks of fundraising, because again, I have no medical insurance, I was able to have the surgery done where we removed my fallopian tubes, we removed my entire womb. So we left one ovary in just so that I don't just get thrust into menopause, but that was to help with the hormones. And the healing process took a few weeks, but I'm glad that I did it. I'm ashamed though, let me tell you why, because I should have screened 2 years ago. But when I got to the age that my mom was at the time that she discovered her breast cancer, subconsciously, the fear just came in. That was the year that as stupid as it sounds, that's the year I stopped screening. That was 2 years ago. And this year in May, because it was All Cancer Month, our support group, we held a number of screenings for people generally and for our group members. And we had a blood drive, and I went to the doctor's office just to welcome people as they came to get screened. And because she is my physician, Dr. Gertrude Holder, she's like, oh, why you here? Why don't you, let's do your screening. And I'm like, no, man, I want to make sure we use this money that we got donated for people who really need it. So she said, well, Duqueso, I'm not going to charge you. Let's just do, she just kind of, cornered me. So I said, okay, well, let's do everything. Let's screen for everything. We did blood, we did pops, we did everything. And a few weeks later, that's when I got my results. So as we completed the surgery, and she and I had a post-surgery conversation, she said, this is why screening is so important. Prevention is better than cure. And we caught whatever was happening with you early so that it didn't bloom into a major battle that you would have to fight. So that cancer screening and that annual screening is super important for every single woman. Every single woman should be screened. Dr.
No-
Ebby, my phone is blowing up. So many people are asking for the link to the show.
Tell them go on Facebook or YouTube and pull up Palmdale Vision Center.
Okay.
Just pull up Palmdale Vision Center on YouTube or Facebook, and it should take you right to the show.
All righty.
Now, it's interesting that you spoke about your reproductive area, because women who are BRCA positive, that is the connection. The breast, the ovaries, the reproductive area, they're all connected, and the risk for developing cancer is even greater.
Wow.
As you were talking, it took me back to my journey. Of course, I had to have the bilateral mastectomies, about being BRCA positive. And then a few months later, I had to have their entire reproductive system removed. Okay.
Wow.
Now, for you and I, at the time you make these decisions, your childbearing years is kind of over. Think of younger patients who have to deal with this kind of decision. What kind of advice, Teresa, would you just give to them?
Well, my advice would be to face that fear. I mean, yes, at a young age, you don't want a cancer diagnosis, but the flip side of that is also at a young age, you don't want to die or have to fight so hard to live. The earlier the disease is caught, the better the treatment options are. So if you're young, and we do have members in our group who are young, we have a member who was diagnosed at 23. We have another member who was in her 20s as well, currently recovering. So we do have young people facing cancer. So I want to encourage you to think about your future, think about how you want to live, think about your future kids, your future family, think about the life that you want, and then think about what if that gets taken away from you because of a fear that caused you not to get screened at an early age, at an early stage where you could actually win. So as hard as it is and as scary as it seems, I want to encourage you to embrace that fear, because knowing is half of the battle. When we know what we're facing, when we know what we're dealing with, we're able to fight smarter and wiser. So take the bull by the horn, get that screening done, and either eliminate a concern or discover something early and deal with it so that you can live a healthy, happy, long life.
Now, the fear factor, I was talking about that yesterday with a group. It is real, because when you get a diagnosis like cancer, it grips you, it catches your attention, and it can take over your life or even consume a life. And in those cases, women who would have gone through the disease and then to hear that it's back, the fear factor is real.
Yeah.
What advice do you give to these persons? I mean, for you, it was a fear factor. For me, it was. But somehow you have to deal with it.
I mean, we face fears every day, Dr. Abby, right? Consciously and unconsciously. Like when we wake up every day, there's this fear that when we leave out the house, we may not see a loved one when we come back because life just happens. We face fears about our children. We worry about, whether they're being obedient in school or if they're acting out. We face fears. We jump in our cars. We don't know if we're going to reach to our destination. I mean, fear is just a part of life. And the scarier it is, the more it cripples us, all right? It makes us stuck because we don't want to face what could be on the other side of that fear. I always share when I'm coaching, I always share that fear is false expectations appearing real. It's our expectation. And for me, for an example, my expectation was that I would have cancer at the same age that my mom had cancer. And so I had that expectation. And as a result, I allowed my fear to hold me for 2 years. I want other people to learn from that. I want other people to take that as a lesson. Use my mistake as a lesson, um, as a lesson that illustrates the earlier that you detect something, the faster you can deal with it, the better your chances of life is. As a matter of fact, sometimes people are so afraid. There's a lady who's currently fighting, and she's afraid that her husband is going to leave her, and that's contributing to her decision not to remove her breast, which really need to be removed. I mean, there are so many different fears that come up as a result of being diagnosed with any form of cancer. So I just want to encourage that person out there, that if you are afraid because you think people are going to judge you, that's another thing that cancer patients deal with. They're afraid of judgment, that people are going to talk about them. Listen to me, don't worry about them. The most important person is you. And when you take care of you and you make you happy, that is like you live in euphoria. It's like it's a different type of living. So don't worry about what anybody else will think if you're diagnosed. Just know that you will be supported. If your family isn't supportive, there are support groups that will jump in to help you if you don't know what to do. There are other cancer survivors, warriors who have come through, who can share their best practices with you, who can teach you what to do at low moments, who can celebrate with you at high. It's not a journey that you have to face alone. So I want to encourage you to look at that fear and inspect the root of that fear. What is it that I am really afraid of? Am I really afraid of knowing? And last year we did a survey asking women about the reasons they don't take mammogram, and you would not believe that so many women say they don't want to know. There is a fear. They just don't want to know. And I want to come against that because we need to know. We need to know so that we can live. And when we don't make a choice, we're choosing to die. When we have a fear that something may be going on in our bodies, if we feel a lump, or if there's drainage, or there's something going on that's indicating that we need a doctor, and we do nothing, we're actually making a choice, and that choice is to die. When we have the opportunity to make another choice, to be courageous enough to fight it with the support of other people, because we have demonstrated, Dr. Abby, you're here, I'm here, so many other cancer patients are no longer patients, but they're in the category of survivor or warrior. They've made it, and you can too.
Let's talk briefly about two women who, as you said, who are opting not to have their breasts removed because, what their husbands will think or what they will do and that sort of thing. And then I meet a lot of women who just are afraid to have it removed because, they feel it's going to affect their womanhood.
Yeah.
Our breasts are a major part of our bodies. It helps to dress us up. It helps to make us look fashionable, depending on what you want to wear. And it's a major part of it. And then think of it, your reproductive organs, they are so essential.
Yes.
Especially if you don't have children.
Yeah.
But in particular, the breast. How could we encourage women to say, listen, if this is what you need to do, please consider it?
Dr. Abby, it's a hard decision for a woman. Some women immediately go to, okay, that's the problem, cut it off. But other women have other considerations, like, and there's a lot of pressure sometimes about, well, I feel like a woman, because like you say, the breast is a big part of the way that we feel as a woman. We're feminine with these breasts. And so you worry a lot about how you're going to feel if you're going to lose that. You may worry about how you will perform sexually, if that's going to impact your ability to feel, because that's a big part of intercourse as well. So there are all of these worries that we face when it comes to removing our breasts. And then there's the scar. I want to tell you
Yes.
that as I travel with the amazing women from our support group, listen, the first time it happened, I was in complete shock. We were traveling to the Susan G. Komen walk in Miami. Many of us were in different rooms, and I was in a room with three other women. And these ladies just took, I mean, they were so free. They were walking around, no breast, one breast, and I was like, wow, what power, what amazing strength for a
Now,
woman.
stop right there. For us as women, that adjustment is not so bad. But think of your better half.
Yes.
How
Yes.
does that impact a man?
It will. I think, it will impact a man. I will say this though. When a man loves a woman, that love goes deeper than physical attributes, right? Of course, he may be disappointed, but if he really loves that woman, he will be more concerned about her life than he will be concerned about preserving a breast or two, considering that you can have them reconstructed, considering that you could buy the prosthetic breasts that make you look firm, and you could still wear sexy lingerie. You can still accentuate the other parts of your sensuality to enhance your bedroom activity, your relationship. You can enrich your relationship in other ways. You can, spark up your dating life. You can pay more attention to him. So, yes, he may have those concerns, but it's a partnership. When you are in partnership, that's what it is. He works with you to strengthen you. You work with him when you are stronger to ensure that he is not missing out on the enjoyment that he received prior to your diagnosis. And I'm going to go far with this, Dr. Ed, because I want to say that if a man cannot deal with the fact that your breast coming off is crucial to your survival, he doesn't have your best interest at heart, because he can't want you to live with a diseased body just for his pleasure. You have to make a hard choice at that moment. Is do or die. Is you or him. And unfortunately, there's no soft way around it. I can't sugarcoat it. It's a hard decision, and it's really a decision about living. The man that loves you, he is going to be there for you.
I agree.
And you may also need counseling. Don't minimize the value of couples counseling through these difficulties, because we have emotions when we get diagnosed, and we've been with someone for years. They have emotions about how it's going to impact you. They see you may be weak. They may not be accustomed to you being frail. As an adjustment, they may be afraid they'll leave you. So counseling is also an important part of coming through that successfully with your partner.
And that is something we tend to overlook, the fact that counseling in a lot of cases may be needed depending on who or what you're dealing with.
Yes.
But any woman who's out there who's listening to us, it is so important for her to recognize and realize that her body needs to be healthy no matter what. And after you've had that conversation with your oncologist and your doctors, and if they're advising you to say, well, we suggest you have it removed, it is a real conversation you need to have with your better half to ensure that you seek and get help. Because, yes, for a lot of women, and then those women who, we had a lady on last week who talked about she felt a lump and she waited a year. I know some women, I know of a young lady, she's not here today, but she waited 2.5 years. And that lump just grew and grew, and eventually, once that cancer cell passed the home stage and migrates into other parts of the body, then you are definitely at risk, and chances are you will be living with the disease for the rest of your life because your cure rate has been minimized or diminished. Now, talking again too about the reproductive side of it. Children, you know, if you've not had a child and you want to have children, and you have to say, well, I need to have my reproductive organs removed because of the risk of cancer. How do you speak with somebody concerning that?
I think that love is a beautiful thing, right? As mothers, we love our children unconditionally. Um, but many of us love children that we never gave birth to. We influence other children by our mentorship. Many of us may have worked in youth organizations or in our Sunday school at church, and we touch and we reach into young lives. It is devastating if you want to be a mother, it is devastating to hear that you may not be able to give birth because radically the disease has to be taken out if it's at a particular stage. And so you need to lose that reproductive system. We are again at a choice of life or death, with the understanding that we can nurture children and love them just as much, whether we gave birth to them or not. And there are so many children in homes here that are in need of parents. There are children that can be adopted. There are children in your family that are in need of support. Perhaps a sibling may need some support because they are overwhelmed with their kids or the amount of kids, and you want to step in to be that mom. There are other ways. So I would encourage you to begin looking at ways that you can become a mom that are just not the traditional way of giving birth. You can adopt a baby who will never know. You will know, and perhaps as they're older, they may come into the realization that you didn't give birth. However, the love that you extend to that child is not going to be any more diluted because you didn't give birth to that child. There are options available for you to be a mom. So I would say not to rule out, because even thinking about if you have a challenge with your reproductive system, let's say you are at an advanced stage with cancer, conceiving is going to be detrimental to your health. You just have to think about the pros, the cons, the risk, and understand that there are options available for you to mother a child outside of birthing that child.
Now, let's just step back to talk some more about your mom. How old were you when she was diagnosed, and how did you handle that?
Let me just calculate that. I was, hold on a second. Let me see how old I am now, Dr. Abby. I almost 50. How I get this? Listen to
So
me.
you were probably in your 40s, late
17.
30s.
Right. So I was in my early 30s. I was around 30, 31
Mm-hmm.
when my mom was diagnosed. So definitely between 30 and 33. And I didn't immediately understand the severity of what she was facing. And I'll tell you why. We as a community, as a country, we do a good job of burying our head in the sand with cancer. I can tell you that I know of no one in my family that had cancer prior to my mom having cancer. And it wasn't until she got cancer that I discovered my grandmother's aunt had cancer, and started to discover that there was actually cancer in the family line that I was ignorant to because it's not talked about. It wasn't talked about. It was hidden. I didn't know my history, my health history well enough. And that's one thing. Secondly, like the month of October, we blow up breast cancer. Everyone is advocating, everyone is fundraising, everybody is pushing. But there's January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, November, December, all of which have their own forms of cancer. And we need more advocacy. We need more conversations about cancer, the various forms of cancer, because breast isn't the only form. All Cancer Month is May here in the Bahamas. In May, there should be, if I had a magic wand, I would offer screening for all forms of cancer if I was able to fund it, have talks about cancer all over the place, everywhere that you could possibly be. If I could be everywhere, just be the face of cancer, so that people understand it's not something that we have to hide from. We need to know. You need to know your family history. You need to know that when Aunt Susie was sick, it really wasn't some hidden disease. It was actually cancer, because you need to know how that impacts you or how it will impact you in the future. We need to have brave, bold conversations with women. Some of them are afraid to make these hard decisions, Dr. Ebby, because they don't have examples of other women that made hard decisions who are in happy marriages or in happy relationships or have happy friendships or have successful careers, right? I just wish that we could. Cancer is like COVID. Like COVID came and everybody started like going crazy, because we need to safeguard ourselves from COVID because of how it is transmitted. But cancer is just as much a threat, and I think it needs more priority, more conversation, because we even have cancer in children. Children are, it's childhood cancer. I mean, it's everywhere. We just need to face that, have conversations about that, and let people know that, it's not a judgment. It's nothing to be ashamed of. You don't have to hide. Nobody is like, gonna be talking down about you because you have it. Like, people want to support, people want to support other people in the fight. I said a lot. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, you did, but that's important. I was asking you how you handled her being
So,
diagnosed.
okay, yeah. So I didn't really pay attention early on, other than visiting and carrying meals and stuff like that, because I thought that, it wasn't going to be something major. But as I watched and became caretaker, I noticed that this wasn't just a surgery. You stitch it up, and you get better. There are so many different layers to the recovery. I tucked it away because in that moment, she was more important than the emotions that I was feeling. I never entered her hospital room or never entered her home at a time that she was ailing in fear or crying in sadness, because I recognized she would feed off of me. So I would have to go in with a happy face and encouraging face while I tucked my emotions on the side. And when I got home, I would cry. I would worry. I couldn't sleep well because we lived in separate houses and her head was hard. And you know how they don't want to come out their own house. My brother lived there. But, even when she was in the hospital, I would be there in the morning and, I just be straight through until they say you have to go. So that took a physical toll as well. But she was my priority. I wasn't my priority. Then when we came out of it, I was able to process a lot of my fears. I was afraid that my mom was going to die. And I was able to process that and be very grateful that we were able to come through that first fight successfully.
When the second fight came, how did that affect you?
I was optimistic because we came through the first one so well. Like, it was a fight, but she had proven to be a fighter. And so I was very optimistic that we would come through this one the exact same way. As a matter of fact, just the Thursday before she passed away, she had been given a pretty good health report. She needed, I think, 2 more rounds of chemo before they took her totally off of treatment. Everything else was looking good. And so I was very optimistic. I knew how to handle the emotions better the second time around. And so I also was able to recognize in her fear. I could read her to see when she was a little anxious about something. So the experience the first time helped me the second time to be a better caretaker. So I was absolutely devastated when she died because it was totally unexpected.
Now, you, as I hear you talk, I remember it brings back so many vivid memories of myself. You, at once time, you were caretaker, caregiver, and then you were diagnosed. Same as me. I, at one point, was a caregiver for my mom, and I saw her walk that journey, and it did take its toll on me down the road because, yes, as you said, you have to kind of put your feelings and emotions aside to be able to encourage and support that other person, the loved one who's going through that. And then we get diagnosed, and now we have to walk the journey. Okay, let's talk about caregivers. How do we encourage and support these people who are in that journey and in that fight along with the individual?
That there, the caregiver is going through this exact journey that the patient is going through. They feel it all. It's like you carrying a twin along with you. Like if you are the constant caretaker. Um, I want to encourage caretakers to find a way to nurture themselves. I would actually encourage them to join the support groups as well for, um, for women or people with cancer. I would encourage them because the support groups will also nurture the caretaker as well because the caretaker needs to be nurtured. I remember at one point, my entire family kicked in. So I would encourage the caretaker to also find support. We took turns cooking dinner, so it wasn't our breakfast, lunch, and dinner, so that it wasn't just me. There was a schedule and a rotation. So find support for you to support the person that you're taking care of. It also may mean that you hire a cleaning service to clean the house to make sure that it's well sanitized and taken care of because you can't do it all. We have to find ways to help the person that we're standing in for because they're really relying heavily on us. I would also encourage the caretaker to take a moment to come down, like at the end of the day, perhaps once a week, indulge in something just for them, whether that's a bubble bath with a glass of champagne or cider or whatever it is that you enjoy, soda, club soda, whatever. Listen to some soft music and come down from the place of giving because if we don't replenish ourselves we get into we burn out, and in burnout resentment starts to kick in. We feel that our lives may have been taken away from us, and that's why it's important that we nourish ourselves so that we don't get to the point where we resent giving care to the person that we actually love. So find support, people that can help you as you give care to the person that you're loving, and never neglect you. Always remember to do something that refreshes you and helps you to continue in the journey.
And the flip side of that also, Duquesa, is the fact that if it's your loved one, say your mom or your parent, you want to do all that you possibly could
Yeah.
to ensure that they make it or they survive or they're comfortable. And so a lot of times you're not thinking about yourself.
Yes.
Okay. But it's not until maybe after the loved one passes, then you realize how much it has taken its toll on you.
Yes.
I remembered when it was my mom, at that point, she made it to my graduation and then she relocated back home. And then we got the news I'd relocated to Florida that, okay, her cancer, yes, had come back and it had gotten worse. And so she came back to Florida. And eventually there was nothing more they could do. And so she was sent home to be made comfortable.
Oh.
My sister at that point was home. She'd graduated. And so she said, you know, I'm not going to look for a job. I'm just going to be here to care for mommy. So it was her job during the week, and I would fly home on weekends. And we did that consistently until mom passed.
Mm.
And, you know, looking back, we have no regrets. But yes, it took its toll on each of us. I think I went down maybe to size 2-1 or whatever, you
Wow.
know, because working and then traveling and then making sure, you know, I remember at one point a cousin of mine came over and she said to me, you need to go out, you need to do something, you know. And I was like, well, no, I'm only here for the weekend and I have to make sure mom is
Mhm.
okay and do whatever I can do, because you don't know
Yeah.
if or when. So it's hard, but it's a balancing act. And there are many people out there who are caring for loved ones who may have some form of cancer. And, you know, they have to understand and come to grips with the fact that, yes, they do need support and they do
Mhm.
need help. You can't do it all
Yeah.
by yourself.
Yeah.
Um, you may not want people around, and this is a COVID environment, but even
Yeah.
still, in the midst of that, you still have to find some way to be able to get that help and support, because eventually it will take its toll on you.
It will.
And when you look back, you could be angry, you can be frustrated, you know, that sort of thing. Now, when you were diagnosed, how did that shift? You now became the patient.
I did. And I am so grateful, Dr. Abby, for the support. I am telling you, I was overwhelmed by the encouragement and the support. I never had really a depressed moment because it was so early that I knew once the surgery was done, that particular fear would be gone. It would be shifting now to change lifestyle changes to help avoid it coming in any other area of my body or whatever. But at the time that I was diagnosed, I had my husband on my side. He was at every doctor's appointment. I have two adult children. My daughter Amber, my son Ian. They were with me every step of the way. My son is in Virginia, but that would be a daily conversation, a daily check-in. He flew down to Miami where I had my surgery, so I had the support of my family. They were rallying. I never felt alone. And then the support group, like the women in the support group, they were super amazing. So I was optimistic the entire way after I had surgery. My husband was with me for the entire period. He nursed me, took care of me. Um, I was angry with him. I wouldn't say angry. We have been, as marriages go, you have your ups and your downs, and we were getting through a
The
major.
struggle is real, darling.
Yes, we
Struggle
were
is
getting
real.
through one of those major challenges at the point that I was diagnosed. And I found it mature that we were both able to say, you know what, that's minor compared to what you are currently facing. Let's shelf that. And he took such amazing care of me. Listen to me, I've been sick before and he's taking care of me, but the way that he took care of me during that period of time, like, it moved me deeply. I saw love in action. And it was a reminder for me that everyone is human. We all, like, coming together is a process. And it allowed me to see him in a totally different light because of the fact that he took such great care of me. My son took time off and he came down. So I never felt alone. I can't say that I had like fears about whether I would live or die. I did have a major complication in surgery. My surgery was supposed to be 3 hours. But of course, I was asleep. I didn't know. So when I came out, they told me that one of my main arteries was severed during surgery. I had to get 2 pints of blood. They had to work on me to, very quickly get my circulation back in order. And it was a scary period for the doctors, but I was asleep and I didn't know. Outside of that, I didn't have a very difficult time with my challenges at all. Oh, let
Now,
me just say, Dr.
mhm.
Abby, the biggest challenge I had was not being given a choice locally of how I wanted to be treated. My doctor, not my primary care doctor, because that's Dr. Gertrude Holler. She's an amazing doctor, but I was referred here to a specialist. And my biggest challenge was he made all of the decisions regarding how I would be treated. And when I asked questions or requested different options, they just, I don't know. So that's the reason why I didn't have my surgery locally. I was actually referred to a hospital in the US. It's amazing how that happened too, because Dr. Abby, my mom, Like, she didn't leave me with money, but she left me with so many connections. One of her great good friends heard about the diagnosis. She reached out to me. She's like, "Listen, let me get you straight. I work for this hospital locally. Bring me everything, and let me give you a referral for a consultation." And they worked with me because I didn't have insurance. So we kind of worked through things. That's how I ended up having my surgery in the United States, because as a patient, I wanted to have more say about how I wanted to be treated. I wanted to know more options, and that just wasn't openly received.
Let's talk a bit about insurance, Lucretia. You don't have it.
I
To
don't.
try and get it now is even, I don't want to say impossible, but hey, improbable.
Yes.
How important is it to have insurance?
Well, if you want to live, it is like super important. And it's two ways that I think about this. When you have insurance, you could be billed more, and the doctors and everybody can make more money, so you would be a priority. When you have insurance, you have more access to better technology, you'd have access to more treatment options. When you have insurance, it's almost like a security blanket for any emergency situation, versus someone who doesn't have insurance, who now has to go into fundraising, or um, you can also opt to have treatment at a public facility, which is available. And that in itself is a process that you have to go through to be able to be treated. And you're at the liberty and mercy of the system at that particular point in time. So, I think that I did well in terms of being on NHI and taking care of my primary health, but it was bad not to be prepared for an emergency of this magnitude and having to find almost $50,000 out of pocket to take care of this. We had 25 of it, and we ended up having to hustle to find the rest of it. And that is a major financial stress when you're already facing illness, to have financial worry.
The question is, how do we get insurance companies to understand the importance of allowing persons to be able to get coverage at a particular rate? We know they're in the business to make monies. We know we live in a town whereby so many people are impacted with lifestyle diseases and then catastrophic illnesses. And if you don't have insurance, you are at the mercy seat of whatever you can get. What kind of conversations can we have with our people this evening to talk about how do you go about this? I mean, is it a matter of prioritizing? Okay, I'm not gonna travel. I'm gonna pay for health insurance. I'm not gonna buy these particular designer clothes. I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna try to have health insurance. How do we have this conversation? Because this is a real conversation.
It is, Dr. Abby. There are some people who just, no matter what they do, because they are at minimum wage, they have rent, they have kids, they have all sorts of responsibilities, they're barely making it. That person may not have anything to sacrifice to say, I will get insurance, because they're making minimum wage. Then you have people that are making bad decisions, who are buying flashy cars when they're paying the bank a ridiculous monthly fee, or they are buying those branded items that you talk about, or eating out all the time and just living YOLOing all the time with no concern for the future. They are making bad decisions, and sacrificing for healthcare when you are able to afford it is a poor decision. I want to talk to insurance companies, and the reality is, the insurance industry is a business. Like, as blunt as this conversation is, they're not your family. It's not like they care about you. They're not obligated about you. It's a business. They are there to earn a profit, to make money. They are risk averse. And so if we have illnesses that could pop back up that they have to pay out for. That's not something that they really want to deal with because it's gonna affect them. We have to take responsibility somehow for our health. That could mean that we have to eat differently. We have to exercise, manage our stress levels. We know that high blood pressure and diabetes are rampant in our community. And those are diseases, for the most part, that can be managed with a proper diet and exercise program. There are other situations like emergencies where you're in a car accident that you may not have much control over, unless, of course, you're drinking and driving, which is a poor choice again. But there are some emergencies that just can't be avoided. What I learned from this experience is, first of all, I was grateful that we had $25,000 available to go toward it. And it just reinforced to me the importance of having that rainy day fund, having funds put aside in the event your roof on your house is leaking or your car breaks down. You have an emergency fund that you can dip into. If you have a medical situation, you have something that you can start with. And I want to encourage people out there to pay themselves first. Like whatever you do, even if it's $10 you could put aside, start putting that aside. If you make a good salary, consider which percentage of your salary you can start putting into the emergency fund, so that when you hit a crisis, there's something available for you, and you're not you're not like desperate because you have something available that you can begin working on your health challenge with. So fix your diet, fix your exercise program, make better choices with your food. The healthcare industry, the fast food industry is booming because fast food is cheap. And living healthy costs a little bit more, but we're going to pay one way or the other. We're going to pay at the grocery store, or we're going to pay the physician or the surgeon.
Now, you brought up a good point about having options. I say to people all the time, healthcare isn't cheap, because when a new fancy machine comes out that does not have to be, you don't have to use a scaffold, and it's not invasive, and they can do it in such a way that there are no scars or minimize scarring and that sort of thing, robotic surgeries and tissue target treatments, they cost money because a lot of money was spent to develop those technologies. So by the time they get to us, companies have to make their monies back. And so to be able to utilize those things cost a lot of money. And then even maintenance of these equipment. So when we look at cancer in particular, and other lifestyle conditions, to be able to have that sort of major surgeries or to have that sort of technology used on your body, it's going to cost you one way or the other,
it will,
unfortunately. And doctors here, they can look you in the face and say, this is what it is. You know, a lot of times we can't believe. I remember 10 years ago when I was diagnosed, my doctor said to me that my medication at that point was like 4,000 or 5,000 a pop.
Woo!
Now, 10 years later, it is so much cheaper.
Right.
But I also remember I met a lady at your mom's cancer function, and she had a very rare form of cancer. In fact, it was so rare that it was found only in Jewish men.
Wow.
At a certain age. But here it was a Black Bahamian woman with this type of cancer. And, you know, she said to me, after having her treatments, she has to go frequently for follow-ups. And her medication, she said, my medication is so expensive, they can't even ship it here to the Bahamas.
Oh, wow.
And she told me her medication was about almost 15,000 a pop at that point in time. So for me, 5,000 was a joke, you know. But these are just some of the real issues that people have to face when having to decide whether or not you're going to make it or you ain't going to make it. And really and truly, I say to persons, so you must have assurance, God, because He ultimately knows your beginning and your end. And He, when your time is up, no matter what, even if you have the money, because we know of persons who can afford to have the treatment, could spend for whatever, but hey, the situation gets even worse. But we as a people, we need to recognize that yes, if we can afford to get health care, get it. Some get whatever you can get. So when the crisis come, you would be able to have something to rely on. But when you don't have anything to rely on in our country, you're at the mercy seat of the public system, and we all realize now that COVID is taking over the public system. The ladies from Freeport last week do not even have much health care in Freeport when it comes to cancer treatment. So we're in a crisis in our country all around, and COVID is taking priority right now because it's a life-threatening disease and it will take you out quicker than cancer in some cases.
Yes,
So that is where the priorities are.
yes.
But for persons, women in particular, who are out there, listen, while you're healthy and you feel active and you can afford to do certain things, please consider health insurance if you are able. Something to depend on when the time comes.
Yeah.
Now, let's transition to the GD Cancer Caring Group.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a group with a bunch of women a lot of women, different ages, as you said, some in their 20s and some even older, who've been diagnosed with cancer. What are some of the things that you all do? How do you all support each other?
So we have our monthly meetings. Prior to COVID, it was in person, where we would have people come in and teach our group members about how to make healthy food, how to make vegan food. And people come in and teach them about stretching their bodies and exercising, just a wide range of experts coming in to really teach them how to shift lifestyle so that they maintain healthiness. So our group meetings are the third Wednesday in every month. We have transitioned to Zoom for those meetings. That's one of the ways that we support each other. Prior to COVID, we did socialize quite a bit. At least once a quarter, we celebrated birthdays. It was a treat, and the ladies were able to just have a good time together, relax, and enjoy the supportive care from one another. We have women in our group who, like I said earlier, would visit the other women, carry food, clean houses, whatever was necessary, take them to appointments, just generally being a sister and a help in difficult times. We run some programs as well that help us to do some of the work that we do. We just this year in May organized a blood drive, our very first blood drive, because it's so disheartening to hear people crying for blood on a consistent basis. We wanted to help be proactive in getting blood into the blood bank and available for whoever needs blood. So the first one we did was in May. We want to do another. It's something that we hope that we can do consistently to feed into the blood bank. We do screenings for our members as well. If our members are in need, we assist them with that.
When you say screenings, to go for the mammograms,
right?
Or
The
to
mammograms, the pap smears, those sorts of things. And if a group member is having a medical procedure, and that person does not have the funds to totally pay for their bill, we support. We give a stipend as best as we can to assist.
And believe me, that ain't cheap. I mean, you have to raise the money some way, somehow.
Correct. So we do our best to give a stipend towards helping them, provided we have funds in our kitty to do so. We organize a soup drive where we sell soup to the general public, and for each soup that's purchased, we would give a free soup to a cancer patient who is in need. When we first started out, we were gracious to be supported, where we donated, I think, 15 or 20 free soup to the the patients at the Cancer Caring Center in our very first initiative. And we continue to do that up to COVID. But when COVID started, of course, everything was basically shut down. We had an annual tea party, again, as a fundraiser, but it brought women together. Our members became models, and so they would be dolled up by some business volunteers who would do makeup, who would dress them and they would, we'd have a whole fashion show at the tea party just to showcase them, encourage them, inspire them. We have the jazz concert that we did annually. Of course, with COVID, we haven't been able to, but we do have it on the program to kick off again. We're working with an organization called Just Cause to raise more awareness to our group, because a lot of times we get confused with sister sister. People think that we are sister sister, but we're not. We're a different group. So we're working with an organization called Just Cause to help us raise awareness that our group does exist and it is different. We offer different programs. While there are some similarities, we focus on social, mental, and emotional support more so than the provision of a port. But we do provide needles to our members when they are short for those ports as well. We've not been able to do extensive community work due to our limited resources, but our group is growing. And we do have a whole manifest that we are enacting over the course of the next few years.
Now, as we begin to kind of wrap up and taper, I don't see any questions thus far. I just see a bunch of hellos, hi, that sort of thing. But, that is okay. We're glad that they're listening.
Yes.
As we think about cancer in our society today, and the fact that it's not going anywhere, it's just who will be the next one.
Yes.
What encouragement do you give to our people as we try to face the challenges of COVID? A lot of people are not working. A lot of people are having stress in the homes. A lot of people are having financial challenges. And the list goes on, and relationship challenges. When we were in the lockdown, a lot of persons were forced to be in environments that really they didn't want to, but they had nowhere to go. What do we say to our people?
Dr. Abby, there's so much that I want to say, because every single person has been touched by this pandemic. Like nobody worldwide has not felt the impacts of this pandemic. What I recognize that every smiling face does not represent a happy person, that people are struggling behind the smiles, many of whom have nobody to talk to about their struggles, or many of whom don't want people to know that they are going through a bad situation or that they are in need. And I want to encourage that person today to consider putting pride aside and consider the value of community and support. We were born for community. If you think about it, we were born into a tribe. Our first tribe was our families. So we were born for community. And I want to encourage that person having a rough time facing the pandemic to find someone that they can trust and support, to have a conversation with, and to not be ashamed, because life is seasons. There are ups and downs, there are hills and valleys. But with time, we move through each season into the next, and your next season is coming. To the person that's facing loss of a loved one, I want to tell you that I know exactly what that feels like. There are, as a matter of fact, in this very moment, I am tearing up because I've not yet adjusted to the fact that my mom is no longer here with me. And many times in life, we allow petty grudges to keep us apart from people that we love. And I know that as a young child, I gave my mom enough headaches. And we had a real difficult relationship up until she was first diagnosed with cancer. And it was at that time that I realized the value of having a woman like her in my life, that constant support, that unconditional love. There are people that you love that you're not speaking to, or you're not bothering with, or you're not fooling with because they've done something to hurt you. And I want to encourage you to make amends, because one day the opportunity will no longer be there for you to make amends and say the things that you really want to say. Release that burden, extend the olive branch as best as possible, because our bodies internalize stress. If you are a cancer patient, I have a special message for you. If you have been diagnosed with cancer, I want you to know that cancer can't, it doesn't have to destroy you. Cancer, we have a choice. Cancer can make you more courageous. It can make you bolder. It can fire a passion inside of you to live life, because you'll recognize that the life that you were living before wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't enough. It wasn't even what you wanted. But because you've been touched by cancer, you recognize that the rest of your life could be the best of your life, and you want to embrace every opportunity to live life on your terms. I want to encourage you to fight. I want to encourage you to sit in those valley moments when that medicine is, I'm just wrecking your body. Sit in those valley moments when you're going through chemo or radiation and it's really hard and you want to give up. I want to encourage you, because on the other side of that, your best life is waiting for you, and all it wants you to do is to come through this difficult time. If you are a cancer warrior, I want to salute you tonight, because I know that that journey was not easy. I know that you fought. I know that there were mental battles that you faced that you didn't share. I know that there were restrictions that you didn't enjoy. I know that you fought hard to live. And I want to encourage you today to continue letting that dash between when you were born, when you died with cancer, and when you were rebirthed, pick up from the rebirth and use every breath that you have to embrace opportunities, travel, socialize, live your passion and your dreams, because you've been given another opportunity. I want to close my encouragement out to any other person listening, whether you are a teenager, a woman, a man, it doesn't matter. I want to remind you that your life has purpose inside of you. When you feel your heart beat, that beat is there because there is something that God has for you. You are here for a reason. And it doesn't matter if people told you that you're not worthy. It doesn't matter that they don't value you. It doesn't matter that life didn't go the way that you wanted it to. Every experience has value. And you could take the value from that experience and use that as a foundation to build your very best life. Above all, to every single person that I'm giving encouragement to, don't fight whatever battle you're fighting alone. Isolation will breed depression. Connect with positive people who will encourage you and inspire you to come through the other side. That's me. And that's heartfelt. I wanted to cry.
I could hear it in your voice. Any sort of sickness is not a disease to fight alone. And, I think of persons who have gone through it and they've said to me, I don't want to remember it. I'm putting it behind me. And that's okay. That's the choice they have. But I say to persons, it did not happen to you, and God did not bring you through it for you.
Yes.
It has happened for you to encourage someone. So if you've gone through a journey like cancer and you feel, okay, I want to put it behind me, I don't want to remember it, I don't want people to remember it, no. Use that experience to support, to be a light, and to encourage others. We're all here for a reason and for a purpose. And ultimately, God has allowed us to be here for that. And so, with that, we want to end this series of breast cancer awareness here in the Bahamas. Breast cancer is not going anywhere. By the end of this week, other women will probably be diagnosed. Okay? Some will be early, some will be middle stage, and some will be quite advanced.
Mhm.
whatever it is. But women, I want to say to all of us, be proactive. Listen to your body. Know your body. Know what changes that may be occurring that feel strange and different. And try not to self diagnose. If something doesn't feel right, please go and seek help. And in a lot of cases, some people are misdiagnosed too, or it's not picked up. But in any event, find somebody and help and use that person to help you get the support that you need. And then to the better half, the men, spouses in your lives. We have to continue to support these individuals,
Yes.
to encourage them, because a lot of times they don't share their experiences. I would love to do a show to have some of the men come on and talk about how they handle going through cancer with their better half. And so we hope I could get some men who would be willing to come and talk about it, because it's real. And there are some who've just left, who said they're not going to deal with it. And bushcrack, man, gone.
Yes.
That's a reality for some women. But for all of us as women, every day, please do your self examinations. This is the month for the mammograms. A lot of people are offering discounts. Take advantage of it. Go and have your mammograms done. It's so important to know your family history. A lot of times people come in my office and I ask them, no, I don't. I said, please go and research, because 2 generations previous did not talk about these things.
Yes.
Okay. A lot of people went to their grave with cancer, with illnesses that exist in our families. And we saying we don't know because nobody talked about it.
Yes.
But please dig up your family history. And when you decide to marry somebody, get to know their family history also, because the child that you birth will carry on some of those diseases and conditions, unfortunately. So we have to be more open minded when it comes to our health.
Yes.
We have to practice good, healthy lifestyles. It's so important. Our eating and our exercise, we can't say that enough. And if you've been diagnosed with any form of cancer, diet and lifestyle is key. You have to minimize certain things in your life going forward. But most importantly, get to know God, because He is the one who created you. He's the one who knows your body, and He's the one who knows when you're going to die.
That's
So
right.
get to know Him, because you don't want to leave here without knowing Him. So I want to thank Ducresa so much for being on the show and on the program this evening, the Jenny Dane Cancer Caring Support Group. And then we cannot forget Sister Cancer Support Group. That was the one that initially started support here in the Bahamas. Nurse McPhee, Miss Andrea, and then one of the leaders, also Yvette Cargill, and many others. These are women who continue to champion that cause, to assist with so
Yes.
many in getting ports and help as best they can. And even in Freeport, there are some support groups there, and these groups are trying to raise monies to help individuals. But more importantly, we have to begin to consider our own health. And as Duquesa said, put aside for the rainy day, because we don't know when it's coming. We don't. More importantly, let's support each other and let's love each other, women. That is one of the biggest challenges we face, where women do not support each other. And once we hear something, we want to talk and gossip about it. We can't control that, but you don't know when your time is coming. And so when we hear of others, instead of talking, let's just see how we could help, how we could pray, and how we could give. And so once again, I want to thank our listening audience for being a part of the show this evening here in the Bahamas, around the Caribbean, and even international, worldwide. We thank you so much. Breast cancer is not just October. It's highlighted in October, but we want you to know that cancer is something that needs to be talked about, as we said, and highlighted on a daily basis. And one thing though, Ducresa, with the lockdown. And then in one sense, I'm happy because when it was breast cancer month, every man and his dog had some function, used that name, made a lot of monies,
Yeah,
and may have given 1%, 5%, and pocketed the rest.
true.
You know, come on now, if you're going to use breast cancer, any form of cancer to raise monies, it should be to give the majority
Yeah.
of it to the organization or the
Yes.
support. This ain't about us and hogging on it ourselves. And so that is the one thing that disturbed me greatly about it. When the month came around, everyone was selling some sort of paraphernalia or doing something in the name of breast cancer
Mhm.
and giving half a cent towards the cause and pocketing a rest.
Yeah.
Please let us as a people begin to do things in the right way. If we saying we're raising funds for breast cancer or for a worthy cause, let's give it all for that and stop using it for our
Amen.
own personal gain.
Yes.
Okay, I am hoping that our people would begin to recognize that, because when your time comes, you will know what we're talking about. And with that, I want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone. Share Your Story has been brought to you by Palmdale Vision Center here in Nassau, Bahamas. And next month will be the last show for the year, the third Thursday. And we're going to be talking about Alzheimer's, another important disease and condition that many families are facing. And so listen up for that on the third Thursday of next month in the will of the Lord. Thank you once again. And thank you to our listening audience. And to Chris and I will come out. We will end, but we will wrap up. And so thank you. Remember, continue to support our sisters in the fight for breast cancer and some of the men also. Thank you to our listening audience and good evening.